Firstly, I would like to say thank you to the Foundation for inviting us here. This is my first time in Poland. I'm glad I came to Gdansk. It's a beautiful city. I also got the opportunity to go and see the community house. We even got to play ping pong with the young people yesterday, which we enjoyed very much. I'm going to talk today on two separate issues. One, I would like to talk about the need for finance for the social economy as it develops and moves forward. And I currently am chairman of the Ulster Community Investment Trust, which is a social bank that only lends money to social economy projects. So we will look at some of that. And secondly, I'm going to talk about my own company, which is Ordis, the Business Development Agency, which is a social economy project that actually supports the growth of the private sector and small business in Northern Ireland very successfully. So firstly, we're just going to play a short film on the work of Ordis. Ordis was set up in 1988 by a voluntary set of directors who felt very strongly that there's a need for commercial activity to happen in West Belfast. We are a property management and development company. We also, as one of our strands, manage quite a number of other properties in Belfast and Lisburn for developers.
We offer a full range of services from those people considering self-employment but haven't actually made the decision yet, through to our people that have decided to actually start up in business, through to supporting individuals who are already in business.
I'd come from a redundancy situation where I hadn't any experience of working for myself, so Ordis really just gave me the options that were available to me if I wanted to set up on my own.
We have a full variety of methods of outreach. They vary from going out physically into the community, speaking to people directly.
Anytime I've ever needed a helping hand where I may have came to a stumbling block, they've always been there. I can pick up the phone and just get a friendly person on the end of it who are more than willing to help out.
Because my business is actually situated in the complex that Ordis is based in, I can find I can lift the phone anytime.
All our staff members are members of the Institute of Business Consulting, which is a standard that allows us to know the quality that we're providing our clients and our customers. Let us know that the quality is where it should be.
Ordis have been extremely helpful. The knowledge, the range of business contacts that they have has been instrumental in growing our business over the last 12 months.
I would say we would have maybe about 300 to 400 businesses and individuals coming through our door every year.
They showed me how to get my name registered, my business name registered, how to get website name domains secured, and then afterwards how to actually develop your own web page.
We help individuals who are thinking about purchasing a franchise, and we also do the other side of things, Indigenous businesses that are thinking about developing their own franchise, so we do both sides of that service.
Ordis is a social enterprise, which means primarily that we're involved in a new and vibrant sector within Northern Ireland. We reinvest any profits that we make back into supporting the business community, the local community, schools, youth groups, sporting clubs and that kind of stuff. So we have a very, very strong social ethos about making sure that we give back. That's also one of our social ethoses, our social impacts that we do, is we make sure that when we're renting our property, we're renting at a cheaper than commercial rate.
We certainly moved here because of the location, closeness to the city and the motorway, but we didn't really realise that they'd be helping us out so much. So marketing, even down to any kind of problems that we've had, which have been minimal. Security certainly is great here, and we've absolutely no complaints whatsoever.
Ordis has been a great experience straight from the beginning. They've all been very helpful with all my business needs.
It certainly helped my business grow within the last 4 years, at least 300%.
So I suppose now I will talk a little bit about social enterprise or the social economy and how it has become a very big and strong sector within not only Northern Ireland but also the whole of the UK. Lately, in this last maybe 5 to 10 years, there's been huge amounts of money invested by government to put policies and structures and an infrastructure in place to ensure that this sector is growing. So when we talk about social enterprise, we talk that it's more than just about profits and the bottom line. It's about profit, because we believe that the social enterprises should be commercial and making profit, but that profit is reinvested back into the local community. It's about people and addressing the need to develop the communities, and also about sustainable development, which is very important to ensure that you're having a positive environmental impact on your community. So ultimately it's about social need, addressing that social need and giving back. So in Northern Ireland, the social economy sector, it's quite difficult to get statistics, but we believe there's about 1,200 social enterprises or social economy projects in Northern Ireland. It's generating £350 million in revenue to the local economy. It's almost 5% of local economic activity, and there's over 20,000 employees in the sector. So one of the things that we did in 2000 is we created Northern Ireland's first social bank, and we started with relatively small amounts of money from government, the commercial banks and the United States. And we have built that fund up now to the value of around £21 million in loans that we have lent out to the sector over this last 10 years. We also, you will see as well, our ethos is that we lend at a competitive rate but not a cheap rate, because there is no point in us being just cheaper than the banks, because the enterprises are not becoming commercially focused or business-like when they're developing. At the moment we have 100 plus loans out in the sector, totaling about £14.5 million. And we do lending for things like capital, i.e. buying assets, bridging loans for when you know that European funding is coming and you have a letter of contract, that we will lend you the money in the short term because we know that it will come. We have found that a lot of people come to us to replace their existing bank loans. So I'll just move forward in some of the sectors, because you will see here as well that the social economy sector is quite diverse in Northern Ireland. So we lend for people that are building things like community houses. We also lend to tourism projects, sports, arts and recreation projects, childcare facilities, and restaurant projects, because a lot of the sector is now looking at community cafes based in the centre of very disadvantaged communities. They often link them into working with organisations with people with disabilities, so that it becomes a training organisation which generates profit and then can be reinvested back in those communities. So you will see from some of these pictures some of the things that we have lent to. The barge, for example, is a tourism project that has an old, I think it's a First World War barge that has been refurbished as a history project, and looks at the whole things of the shipyard in Belfast and the building of Titanic and all of that kind of stuff, right through to disability projects, youth projects in the bottom corner, and even myself and Paul's project both have loans through this bank. So I suppose one of the things that we would say is that to create a strong social economy moving forward, you will need to think about creating a social bank, which will only lend to the social economy. And for this to happen effectively, government and banks need to invest in this. They need to put the seed capital into the fund, because once you have the fund rolling, it will continue to generate money. It will be paid back. Our history and the history of these types of banks across the world is that people have both a moral and legal obligation to pay the money back. We have no bad debt in our bank because it's always paid back. We also think that you should encourage the banks to invest as part of their corporate social responsibility strategy. Now that may be difficult at the start, but you can win that fight. You can win it with the banks. We also feel as well that one of the lessons we have learned is that when government is transferring assets of lands or buildings to this sector, to the social economy organisations, they need to be on 99-year leases, not short-term leases, not 10 years, not 20 years. With 99-year leases, they become a bankable project, which means that the bank will lend money against the lease. That was crucial for the development of our sector, which means then that instead of always being reliant on grant funding, the organisations can go to the bank to continue to develop, to continue to grow, and to continue to add additional services. Very, very important. I think as well that whilst at the start it can sometimes be conflictual, you need to get involved with the private sector. You need to make sure that they are brought into the sector. But the two main lessons from us starting a social bank is that organisations do pay back the money. We have no bad debt. That is a great record for us. They believe morally that they have to pay this back, because if they don't, the next social economy project can't get that money. So there's a moral obligation. So my advice to you, to government, to the banks and whatever else in Gdansk, is be brave and take the risk. It will work. It has worked for centuries across Europe, across the world. Take that risk. Start up this bank. So now I will move on to when social enterprise we have found is most successful. Usually when the market has failed, or when the private sector won't come into communities. Myself and Paul's communities, we had no private sector companies. I was telling Paul last night that in my community we did not have a supermarket until probably 1995-96, which was unbelievable considering we had a community of maybe 100,000 people. So we decided, and the community decided, that we needed to do it first, and then the private sector would come in. We also, it's most effective when an organisation can deliver more effectively than the private or public sector, as Paul said. His project provides childcare facilities in North Belfast where no one else could do it. They have the buy-in and the trust of the people. I think as well that it's important that social economy works when there's more than just a need for profit. There needs to be a bigger social impact, and that you can reinvest your money back into supporting other services, good services, to continue to develop your community. So a bit about Ortus, and I appreciate that there's a lot of information, so I will just skip through a lot of this. With our organisation, we decided we needed really to create jobs. We needed to create businesses. No one was doing it. Government was failing. So we decided that we would do it ourselves. So what we did in 1988, we had the mission of providing affordable commercial space so small business could locate in these areas. We would look at business startup and development support for small business, and we would also give people access to financial support, which was first. So how have we developed? I'll just move forward. Where we are now is we have a company which is a charity which owns all of our assets and owns all of our businesses. We have two key areas, property and business services. And we have also now started to buy new companies from the private sector for the first time so that we can deliver the service better. to the small businesses. So you will see that these are some of our sites. This site, here and here, like Paul, are the peace walls between the two communities. These are 40-foot dividers to make sure that the community is separated. We decided, whether crazy or not, that we would build our business parks right across these peace walls. So this site now houses around 100 businesses on that site that both communities can get access to. This is another one of our sites. Again, the sites are only like 100 yards, 500 yards from the city centre. And we rent our property here at least 1/3 cheaper than they would pay commercially, which means that they get the first step up on the ladder. So, in terms of our property portfolio, when we started, we received a total of £1 million worth of funding from government and from the United States. We have now turned that round, that we own £17 million worth of assets, and we have only roughly £1 million worth of borrowings against them. We own 180,000 square feet of property, but most importantly, we have 140 businesses on our sites, 700 employees, and interestingly, and the reason why this statistic is here is when we go on in the presentation, that 40% of our businesses are doing their business outside of Northern Ireland. So we've started to encourage them to think bigger, better, export, and move into other organisations. We are also managing. We have had the private sector come to us and ask us now to manage their property. So we manage another 400,000 square feet of property. And we have 2 new developments happening, including a new innovation centre that will only focus on things like creative industries and green technology that will be built in West Belfast. 5 years ago, this could never have been imagined. So ultimately, how we have developed and worked is that we have created or facilitated the creation of 2,000 companies. And I suppose more importantly for our community is that we have created around 5,000 jobs since 1988. So we think we have been doing that quite successfully. So the other thing that we do is we do a lot of work with small businesses, encouraging entrepreneurship, working with young people that are coming out of school with very little educational qualifications, to encourage them to get into business through things like Exploring Enterprise, Steps to Work. Steps to Work is a program which works with people who are on benefits and gets them off benefits and into a job that they would like to do. These are some of just the things that we offer for our businesses, but I think you have all of that in your packs. What we have also done, Paul had mentioned it as well, is the importance of continuing to grow and diversifying. We found that our companies were being ripped off by the private sector, or charged way too much by the private sector to form their companies for the first time. They were charging maybe £2,000. We have a new system that's online that can do that for £99, which means that it's not a barrier for anybody starting a business. So we can do it, and we can do it in 24 hours. We also found that the European legislation has changed, and that it was an obligation to have new fire risk assessments in buildings, commercial properties, community houses. So this was being done by the private sector at ridiculous costs. So we have now decided that we would go in and compete, and we do it for £150 as opposed to £1,000. So that means that we're trying to make sure that we're taking down as many barriers as humanly possible to people starting business in our communities. This is quite an exciting project because we have just acquired or purchased a private sector business from the university. And we think we're the first social enterprise in the UK to buy a university spin-out company. And the reason why we bought it is that a lot of our companies are now moving to trade in Europe. So they need their websites translated, they need translators and interpreters to go with them, they need their documents translated, their legal documents translated. So we decided we would buy a company to help that process, again so that they wouldn't be charged exorbitant prices. So we now have 260 interpreters working for us, and we cover 60 languages. And what's very important for us is we deliver these contracts for government, the big banks, the court services, and all of those types of organisations. This, I'll move past. So our impact, the first thing I will say is we are now totally self-financing. We haven't taken a penny from government in terms of a grant, or from Europe since I think 2004. So all of our money is self-financing. If we want to do something exciting, we go to the bank, we borrow the money, and we go for it. We take the risk. It works usually. So we have subsidised rent, which means that it's cheaper than commercial rates. We also donate a minimum of £100,000 per year to our local community to support projects like the community house or those types of projects with disabilities or youth projects, football clubs, anything that's going to make a positive impact on our community. We also give back around £50,000 per year in free advice and guidance to the small business community. And the reason we do that is we believe that if the small business community is growing and developing, it's creating jobs, it's creating an economy, it has a ripple effect within the community because there's more money being spent in the community, better services will come, and better private sector services will also come. We also sponsor a number of school bursaries. We encourage trading locally within our community and within our business parks. So if there is an accountant, we encourage him to be the accountant for the small businesses, so that there is almost a network of small businesses working and trading together. Like Paul, we are very interested in quality, so we have initiated ISO 14000 to make sure that things that we are doing have a very, very small environmental impact in terms of damage. So I think really this is where we are. We continue to offer internships for young people, and we also work for schools, local schools, for placements as well. So again, from our perspective, whilst this might seem, I'm conscious that when we're talking in millions of pounds here. As Paul has said, this has happened over 23 years. At the start, this was very slow and very, very hard. But this sector really works. Social economy really works. It is so important to support this sector. In Northern Ireland, our government has now accepted that given the economic recession that is happening in our country, that the social economy sector will probably help bring us out of recession, because it's not just about the profit, it's about the social impact, it's about what we can do within our communities, and it's doing that at not cheap but value for money prices. So this is just some of our websites. We have very recently we have just been developing more and more websites, because younger people want to go to websites. They don't want to sit in rooms and listen to boring people like me talk. They want to go online and find that information out. So I think we're going to be able to answer some questions now if anybody has any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Seamus. Mam nadzieję, że skala działań, ilość pieniędzy i sukcesów Państwa nie przytłoczyła. I teraz mamy tą sesję pytań, tak? Do naszych przyjaciół, do Paula i do Seamusa. Mam nadzieję, że jesteście Państwo w stanie takie pytania sformułować i zróbmy tak, że kilka pytań naraz skomasujemy i będą odpowiadać blokowo, dobrze? Kto z Państwa miał na początek jakieś pytanko? Jeśli nie ma, to jak się spodziewałem, że sekunda zawsze jest oporu. Za chwilę Państwo ruszycie. Okej, to już nie. Już. Pani pierwsza, Patryś, proszę bardzo. Musi Pani...
Thank you for your beautiful presentation. It's really inspiring. So, I was going to ask you, if you had, both of you, when you started, a group of people with whom you have been able to work, so like develop people whom you relied on, knowing that they have the same qualities, they share the same values, or that you have to train those people?
Certainly, our experience would be that there must be a dynamic group there at the start. Whether that remains the same group, our experience would be that it didn't. We had a very dynamic group who got the centre established, but I think in large part they thought, that's that, you know, we have done our work. But it gets, I mean, okay, it is great to get your centre, but then a lot of work starts. And so after that, I mean, we had big problems at the start because our centre almost failed. So then we brought on new people and new skills.
Można pytać po polsku oczywiście, tak? I proponuję, tak jak powiedziałem, żeby parę pytań padło i panowie będą odpowiadać wtedy, dobrze? Pierwsze, proszę. Małgosiu.
Dziękuję bardzo. Ja bym się chciał zapytać, jak to było z tymi 700 osobami, które zainwestowały w pierwszy te shares, które wyście wypracowali. To mnie bardzo interesuje.
Okay. More questions. Może jeszcze pytania są, tak? Few questions. Ktoś się zgłaszał? Myślałem, że to pan właśnie.
A można?
Tak, bardzo proszę.
Don't you fear that when you grow too big and when you are very profitable, there will be a temptation to take it over by, I don't know, by someone who wants to make profit, just profit, not social work?
Okay. Czy jeszcze jest jakieś pytanie?
Okay, well, I suppose on the shares, what happened was it was mainly local women who went round the doors and collected £1 per week, and £35 bought you a share. So they are the shareholders who own our premises. We do not pay a dividend. We are a charity. The profit from it is the facilities that are provided for the community. And there is, that is the understanding of the community as well, which is very important.
How many women collected those £1 things?
There was a core, because we had this as part of our celebration this year of our 20th anniversary, so there was a core group of around 12.
Mówimy tylko do mikrofonu, bo reszta z Państwa może nie zrozumieć pytań, tak?
Okay, on the second question,
I think that the fear of becoming too profitable and too big should never stop you doing what you want to do. The way you legally structure your company can make sure that you cannot be taken over unless, or you cannot be bought or sold out unless you want to be. So we have, like Paul, we have a set of community shareholders. People within our communities, the visionaries, and you have examples of it with the community house here in Gdansk. These people are visionaries. That's not going to change. They will always be visionaries. They will help it grow and develop. So we have found that we strive to be bigger and bigger and bigger, because we can then spread our help out right across Northern Ireland rather than just our small community. So we have no fears, because we know that legally we can't go anywhere unless all of our shareholders agree wholeheartedly that they want to sell it.
I know one of our politicians said to me, "Oh, you do great work. Would you not think of becoming a proper business?" Whereas, I mean, we are a proper business. It's a different model. it's a better model for our community, and that's what we'll continue to do.
Bardzo proszę. Mam wielka możliwość dowiedzenia się czegoś szczególnego, co nie padło do tej pory w prezentacji. Tak jak przypominam, już kolegów nie będzie po przerwie, więc nie będziemy mieli szansy. Okay? So, thank you very much. Dziękuję bardzo.